Good afternoon. Welcome to our tribute to Leon Fleisher. Musicians and music lovers all around the globe are mourning the loss of a legendary pianist, musician, teacher, mentor, friend, a man who did and meant a world to a lot of people and to music of our time. Today and for the next week, we will go live at 1 p.m. New York time and open our virtual stage to Leon Fleischer's students as they share music and pay homage to their teacher and carry on his legacy. Today in our studio, we have Leon's youngest son. We would like to welcome Julian Fleisher. Welcome, and sorry for your loss.
Anna, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I thank you and all these extraordinary students who've gathered together to celebrate my dad's life. And I just want to say on behalf of myself and all of my siblings, Deborah and Dickie and Leah and Paula, and my niece Lena, my nephew Harry, and of course our stepmother Kathy Jacobson, who shared the last 40 some years, well, 30 some years with my dad. We are very humbled and overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and emotion and gratitude and music at this time. I have to admit, I don't think we quite expected such an enormous outpouring, and it's very meaningful to us and very moving to us. And we can just try to express our gratitude and look forward to hearing these daily tributes and listening to the music, because that's really at the core of it all. When I got the request to speak at this event last night, I have to admit I didn't have anything prepared. But I did write something a couple of years ago on the occasion of my dad's 90th birthday, when I was working at WQXR, the classical music station in New York, before they fired me without much fanfare. I wrote a little tribute to my dad for his 90th birthday on their website, and I thought I would return to some of those thoughts because I think they still hold true now. And I'm not a classical musician. I'm a singer. Several of my siblings are musicians. My sister Paula, who's not a musician, is a great lover of music, which is equally as important. And I think what I want to say on behalf of us is we are all his kids. I think we all spent a lot of time in our lives, the five of us, intensely aware that we shared dad with you all, that you as his students were in many ways as much his kids as we were. He took his teaching very seriously. He loved his students. And so these are thoughts from one child/student to all of you kids and students, fellow travelers in my dad's universe, if you get my meaning. So these are some thoughts I had on the occasion of his 90th birthday, and I will try to be brief. I wrote that on his 90th birthday, my dad is a badass. I say this because I've known him my whole life. And these days, living into your 90s is not that unusual, but remaining as vital and engaged as he is quite remarkable. And I've no doubt that his drive and his longevity are fundamentally linked. And here are just a few lessons from that life. Things take time. A few years ago, my dad came to New York to play chamber music, and sadly, due to a gig of my own, I wasn't able to attend. The next day, as the custom in our family, we called to ask each other how our gigs had gone, and to my surprise, he wasn't happy with his. On the subject of his concerts, he was rarely jubilant, but then again, he was also rarely blue. And he offered that the problem was that there was a piece by Brahms on the program that he just didn't know very well. And in disbelief, I said, "Dad, you've been playing Brahms for 80 years. How can that be?" And his answer left me speechless. He said, "Well, not this piece. I've only been playing this piece for 5 years. And that was a truth bomb I had to really recover from. He taught me that the piano is a rhythm instrument. I'm sure you agree. This blew my mind when Dad first laid it on me, though now, in retrospect, it seems so obvious. My father made his reputation on the rhythmic power of his playing. It was a modern, unsentimental approach that made many of the classic music canon's war horses seem completely new. Now, with me, my dad rarely delivered lessons from on high, but this one he did dispense rather directly over a sushi dinner on West 55th Street. He said in music there are essentially three elements: melody, harmony, and rhythm, and of these three, only one really counts: rhythm. Check, please. Hang out with young people. My dad loved to teach. In the end, his legacy will be as much a result of his pedagogy as it will be anything else. And I'm certain sustained contact with younger musicians like those who are here with us today kept him curious and searching and alive. Fewer notes, more meaning. As my dad got older and, more importantly, began to regain much of the use of his right hand, he turned, perhaps understandably, to less technically challenging material. Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 12, Bach's Jesu, Sheep Will Safely Graze, even Debussy's Clair de Lune. None of these are the kinds of works that artists bucking for greatness place high on their lists of competition-worthy showpieces. But Leon, about whom a writer wrote lately that he plays fewer notes that they mean more, turns deceptively simple pieces into deeply probing, almost transcendental exercises, free of ornament, free of flash, free of ego, but glowing with humanity, poetry, promise, and an almost holy sense of humility. It's not the heat, it's the humility. The lesson here is as simple as it is self-evident. It's not how many notes you play, but how you play them. Forgive me if what I'm saying is stuff you probably already know. I'm just confirming it from right next door to you. Don't get in the way of the music. If Leon's contribution to music can be distilled down to one thing, it is this: serve the music. Honor the composer's intent. When he played, there was no romantic, self-dramatizing gesturing that typifies many soloists in the classical universe. He plays with an economy of motion, as if to say, don't look at me, listen to the music. What the soloist feels is of no use to the listener, and I have no doubt that if he could have placed a screen between himself and the audience, he would have considered it. When translating between two parties, make every effort to keep your own ego out of the transaction. Share the credit and the glory. My dad was never particularly inclined towards the limelight. It seemed contrary to his credo of giving credit to others, eschewing personal glory in favor of the mantle of vessel, of translator, and link in a long chain of succession. Indeed, when he wasn't busy extolling his beloved teacher, Arthur Schnabel, who I honestly thought was my grandfather until I was in my teens, or opining about great composers, he's usually talking about other musicians he admires. He spends most of his time bowing on stage, pointing out other members of the orchestra, his fellow chamber players, or just rushing off stage as quickly as he could. I wish he would have played the diva a little bit more, but I admire his joy in sharing the sacred office of making music with others. Be kind. This one's real important to me personally, with the exception of certain political figures. I rarely heard my father speak unkindly of anyone off the record or on. He could be sarcastic, he could be ironic and even pointed, but he always led with decency and humor and compassion. And I've no doubt that he harbored many dark thoughts about a lot of deserving characters. But as with his music making, he preferred to keep the editorializing to a minimum. I guess he believed that ultimately the truth would out on its own. Two more. This one's called It's Not Kosher, But It's Okay. I'm a nightclub singer, as one of the many reasons why I'm suited to singing nightclub music is that no one expects of me the Olympic level technical virtuosity that, as you all know, is a prerequisite for the world of classical musicians. My father was a freakishly gifted child prodigy, and he's always been revered for his astonishing technique and his otherworldly touch. But even so, he makes mistakes. And whenever I finish one of my gigs, which will inevitably have been shot through with wrong notes and botched lyrics and other poor choices, I say to myself what I often heard my father say after one of his gigs: it's not a Fleischer performance if there aren't a few clams. Finally, keep your sense of humor. We all have troubles, and my father's career was an almost Greek tale of very high highs and very devastating lows. And throughout it all, he was the guardian of a very resilient sense of humor. I don't believe that he or any of us who shared his life could have survived without it. As we all fumble through our days, striving and often failing to fulfill our potential and make the world a better place, laughter, as much as any skill set, rare or common, is the key to making it to bedtime with our spirits intact. Now, I may not have inherited my dad's uncommon musical genius or come even close as many of you have, but I did get his capacity to laugh. That is something he gave me, and I dare say everyone in our family. And for that, we are all truly thankful. So, in closing, let me be clear, he was far from perfect, and I'm sure he'd be the very first to insist. But who is? The things I just talked about, some lessons that are more purely musical than others, all have their analogs in the everyday world. I'm a jazz singer, so worrying about how to make a piano dance with a cello isn't exactly in my wheelhouse, but the impulse to blend, the impulse to share, and most of all, the impulse to listen above all else is. So through his playing and his music and the way he lived his life, Leon showed me, and I dare say all of us, how to try to do that. Have a fabulous tribute. Thank you so much for having me. And on behalf of myself and my whole family, I send my love.
Julian, thank you so much. This is incredible. I was drinking every word of what you said, and I dare say I will try my best to follow the advice, and for sure I'll fail more than I'll succeed.
I'm sure that all we can do is try. I think that's good. Let's get that done. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. And now we will invite one of Leon Fleischer's students. We'll have Yuliya Gorenman with us. Yuliya, hello. Thank you so much for joining on such a short notice. And this is just an incredibly pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you very much.
Would you be okay to maybe say a few words of one of your? I mean, I know every memory of Leon Fleischer is a remarkable one, but maybe you can share one with us today.
Absolutely. I think the memory I go back again and again is the memory of the very first time I heard Leon Fleischer play live. It was in San Francisco, and it was one of the most kind of earth-shattering experiences. It was so mesmerizing and it was so phenomenal. It just left me speechless. What was there? It was his incredible golden tone, as he often said it, like liquid gold. His incredible sense of timing and phrasing that just made it, again in his own words, inevitable. You believed it. It was just right. But there was something else as well, and what was absolutely palpable and evident in every note. It was his courage and the strength of his character. You could feel it. You could feel it immediately. I was very, very fortunate and honored to be his student at Peabody in Baltimore, and to this day, his lessons and the memory of them is just seared on my heart. I still have my scores with his markings, and I treasure them. Hardly, even a lesson go by that I tell my students about him, about his incredible sense of rhythm, organizing musical ideas, and so on. It's he believed in less as it was more. I have to say that I would rather have my music speak more than just my own words. And it's my honor to play Scriabin, Prelude for the Left Hand, in loving memory of my teacher, Leon Fleisher.
That was absolutely heart-wrenching. Thank you, Yuliya. This is phenomenal sound. You were talking about the tone. There is the tone. And
thank you so much.
I
Thank you.
wanna-
I think his legacy will live on, not just in his recordings and his incredible music in the memory of everybody who's ever heard, but also his students and the students of his students. And I think it's up to us to keep that memory alive.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And the other thing, I want to thank you for playing that left hand piece, because that also reminds us of Leon's incredible resilience and courage, and teaches us how probably we can aspire to approach our own challenges. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
And now we will invite on stage another student of Leon Fleischer's. Please welcome Ina Faliks. Welcome, Ina. We're hearing a little bit of echo from your setting, and please take your time. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions and introduce you. Thank you very much.
Hi.
I know. Hi. Thank you so much for joining and coming in again on such a short notice. Ina Faliks is a head of the piano department at UCLA. and she's a mom of two. And I wanted to ask you, Ina, you've known, of course, Leon for years, and maybe you can share some memory which comes to your mind in these days.
Well, there's so many memories that, of course, are flooding back, and
Of course, of
I
course.
send my condolences, of course, to the family, and it's a very difficult time for us to realize that such a musical force is no longer present. But he, of course, will live on with us in his many, many ideas.
I know you wanted to speak a few things which are especially important to you
Yeah.
after you play,
Yeah,
and I don't want to interfere with that plan of yours.
let's do that.
But if you wanted to share something else before you play, that we would appreciate that too very much.
Well, the first time I heard Leon Fleisher teach, just kind of the simplicity of what he was saying, but at the same time, the immense poetry of it, kind of the inevitability, the humor, and the humility of every word in the face of the music, that it was the force, the life force that he loved so much, that sustained him, that moved me incredibly. And of course, that's something that we all hope to carry with us forward.
It seems like the word humility comes up with in the speech of everyone and in everybody's mind. It's incredible. A man of his stature taught everyone humility. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
I will do something and then maybe share a few thoughts.
Sure.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Ina, we're all good. We can all hear you. Please
Hi.
go ahead. I know you're prepared to speak some important things.
Well, prepared is an overstatement in such an occasion.
True. No one
but,
can be
you know,
fully prepared for that. But
You
please
know,
go
I
ahead.
think just something that has always stayed with me. And, you know, I wish, Mr. Fleischer, I wish I saw you more in the past few decades. And it's very sad to me that I was at Peabody in February and almost we saw each other, and then it didn't happen. You weren't feeling well and didn't come in to school, and somehow I knew that that was it. That was my chance, and it didn't happen. One thing that for many, many years has been with me and has changed form, and you know, something that I always try to tell my own students and kind of to bring to life in general, is the magic and the energy of rhythm in music, of physics in music. I always found that to be an incredibly inspiring idea, inspiring concept, that every note is alive, that every note has to breathe and move forward, and nothing should just sit still without a life force in it, even if moving forward inevitably and calmly, or bursting forth like champagne bubbles in a Mozart concerto, as you once put it. It's such a gorgeous analogy, one that I've used, one that I've stolen and adapted and used many times. So I think all of us who teach and perform, but at this moment I want to say especially teach, know that every time we communicate with our own students in our own ways, you come up in our minds and in our hearts, whether we realize it at that moment or whether we realize it later. That every word we say somehow echoes what we learned from you all these years ago. And I know this is true for me in many different ways. And thank you. And rest in peace, and my heartfelt condolences to your family. We miss you. That's it for me.
Ina, thank you. Thank you so much for coming up on such a short notice, and thank you for your wonderful, kind words. This is very heartfelt. I'm gonna cry. I'll try not to before I'm off the stage here. Thank you. And now we'll be inviting another student of Leon Fleischer's. Please welcome on our stage Michael Sheppard. Michael, welcome, and thank you for joining. And thank you for your openness and willingness to participate. This is very important to everyone who is watching, and to me personally.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate being asked to do this. I'm sure there'll be many more since, you know, he's been teaching since 1959. So
Yeah.
how many hundreds of, at least, students are out there probably wanting to get something like this. But thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, I know we have a group conversation going on with the students, and last time I decided to just see how many people are in that group conversation. There's almost 100, and the number is still growing. And with this, I'm going to leave you the stage. Please go on with what you wanted to say.
Thanks. I didn't really plan anything, but I don't know. In many ways, still so close to Leon. I mean, there isn't a day goes by where I don't touch the piano. It's something that is taught me instead, word for word sometimes goes through my head. And I'm literally physically close. I live about 6 blocks from Peabody, so I'm happy to be here representing Baltimore in some way. And the piece that I'm going to play is also.
I'm sorry, Michael. Sorry to interrupt. Would it be possible for you to move a little bit closer to the mic? We'll hear you more clearly that way.
Okay. I'm also am I speaking too quickly? Sometimes I do that.
No, it was just a little too far and soft.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Projection. That'll keep me from getting into my emotions. Okay. That's actually good because I really made it for some of those comments. Especially Julian, thank you. That was quite beautiful. Anyway, I don't want to talk for longer than I'm going to be playing, which might already have happened. But the piece that I'm going to play is something that I I came across only about 3 days ago or so. On Monday, I got an email from the Yellow Barn Festival where Leon had done a lot of work over the last couple of decades. And it was a video of him and his son, Julian, from I think 2017, on his 89th birthday. And it was stories and playing, and the song, one of the songs that Julian, who's a fabulous New York is cabaret singer, and many other things too that I'm right now. But one of the songs that he sung was one that I had heard before but never connected with Leon, and it's called by Harold Carlin, called "One for My Baby." And I knew that Leon enjoyed the Great American Songbook. I mean, his last album is called "All the Things You Are." But apparently, according to Julian, I just found this out watching that video. This was one of his favorite songs, if not his favorite. And so that stuck with me. And then, I mean, I wasn't planning on playing that, but then literally the next day, Jonathan Jensen, who is bass player in the Baltimore Symphony, and also a great arranger, and he has all sorts of fun stuff that he does. But apparently, a few years back, he had written an arrangement of that song, "One for My Baby," for the left hand alone for Leon. And he sent it to me out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it, but so again, I didn't prepare other than I just knew that this was perfect and this had to be what I played today. So without further ado, I'm going to change my settings slightly and get to it.
That's incredible.
Thank you. I'm going to adjust my sound back. Are you planning on?
I'm planning on
going to the next person?
thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I think our sound, yeah, thank you for adjusting the sound.
course.
And again, Michael, thank you for playing the left hand piece, which sounds like someone is playing with more than two hands. What an incredible reminder for all of us. One hand can do a lot.
Yeah. That was one of the
Appreciate
things
it.
that I fell in love with him about too. When I first heard him play with the left hand, I was like, what?
Exactly. It's doable with courage and love. Thank you, Michael, so much for being part of this.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we'll move to our last performer for today, our last participant. And please welcome Xak Bjerken, professor at Cornell University. Thank you, Xak, so much for joining this tribute. I will leave the floor to you, the stage to you, and come back after you finish. Thank you.